For fans of Sesame Street, many will think of Elmo or Bert, or even Cookie Monster, when they imagine anything remotely sinister in the show, ignoring one of the most recent and dangerous elements of the show. Zoe. Zoe, a seemingly harmless creature, is in fact a demon, one which has successfully merged with Sesame Street, transforming what was once a childhood dream into a nightmare. I know this because I had the misfortune of watching an episode of Sesame Street which was never aired to the public, an episode which would never have been seen at all had it not been pirated and leaked onto the web. The episode has moved across the web in varied forms, being shut down several times but popping up again in new websites or accounts. The quality is always pretty terrible, but still giving an insight into the horrors that I saw. The first sign that this episode was unusual was a total lack of the iconic Sesame Street song, just a close-up of a dirty sign reading Sesame Street. The letters faded, and the sign itself looking as if it was going to fall off at any point. The scene then broke into the static burst that made me jump, disappearing to reveal Elmo and his blanket. Elmo was sitting on his bed holding his blanket and crying. His red fur seemed to be falling out, and he kept his head buried in the blanket as he trembled uncontrollably. Another static burst through the scene, disappearing to reveal Zoe in the room with Elmo. The two engaged in a tug-of-war with the blanket, Elmo yelling at Zoe to stop while she yelled back at Elmo to shut up. The intensity of the argument was very off for such a lighthearted show, and despite both being puppets, there was an unmistakable malice in the way that they tugged and pulled, and their voices loud and frightening, in stark contrast to how they normally were. Yet another static burst broke through the scene before disappearing, this time revealing Zoe and Elmo engaged in what looked to be physical confrontation, Zoe choking and slamming Elmo against the ground repeatedly as Elmo yelled out, "Stop it, Zoe! Stop!" Then without warning, Zoe stopped. Elmo now below the camera and out of view, Zoe looked straight into the camera with unblinking eyes. It was at this point that I felt the hairs on the back of my neck rise and a shiver run down my spine as she spoke directly to the audience. "Zoe doesn't want to play anymore." The static burst once again broke through the scene, and before I could react, I was greeted to a blank screen. Deciding I was either crazy or someone had played a joke on me, I tried to rewind the clip and play it. The scene remained blank until I heard Zoe's voice crystal clear despite the black screen. Zoe doesn't want to play anymore. In fear and surprise as your eyes widen, your mouth goes dry with each battered breath. You try to scream, your mind begs to leave, glued to your computer screen. The killers they slash, the tapes burn and crash. The cartridge you bought will be your final haunt. The rituals of hate will seal your fate. The tears you shed will be from the fear-gripping horror-driven nightmarish gore-filled, terrorizing, hateful, burning, violent, rage-inducing, knife-slashing, blood-splattering, silent screams. Only time will tell if you will escape this online hell. Your horror-filled obsessions will come with its own regressions. Your pathetic screams will not be heeded in any way, because your nightmares will come at any day.